Thank you, Lincoln. So last but not least for tonight is Katherine Cooksey.
Okay. All right, hi guys. I'm Katherine Cooksey. I go by KJCooksey in my art practice. I am going to kind of tell you my life story, hopefully not taking too much time, but it does relate back into the art that I'm making now. So, I was born in Palmdale, California. And no, this is not Palmdale, but everyone pictures this as Palmdale. This is actually Palmdale. I was a desert rat. And then this was me in 5th grade. This was a trying year for me. I was actually diagnosed with an eye disease, and basically I don't get enough blood to my optic nerve, and so it creates a very pixelated vision of the world. Glasses, surgery can't help. So I was told by several teachers that because I needed special accommodations while I was in school, that I wouldn't be able to get a job or go to college. And from then on, I had a really hard time in school, pretty much because I couldn't see anything. I still can't see anything. To give you a little bit of an idea of how I see the world. That side is hopefully clear to you guys. That's me on the far end. So from then on, I again had a hard time in school, and I was searching for something else that I could be successful in my life. I wasn't going to be able to drive. I needed to find something, and I was 12 years old, and there was a pageant that was advertised in my school, and I begged my mom to let me run in this beauty pageant. She finally let me. It took a while to convince her. She's a strong feminist, and to her that was totally against what she believed. But she let me do it, and I was successful. I did really well, and I kept doing them, and they gave me the ability to continue on through school. It gave me something to have a goal. I also, in high school, discovered art, and that's what eventually took me on to college. Plus, I was 18, and I didn't care what people said I could or couldn't do. In college, I discovered my ladies, Cindy Sherman and Barbara Kruger, and this is really what influenced the work that I started to make. I knew I wanted to talk about what it was to be a female, our expectations, stereotypes. And so I'm just going to show you a real quick piece that I made as an undergrad for my thesis show. I was also studying marketing, so using the magazine format and taking women that necessarily didn't fit this ideal stereotype that is projected on women, be a homemaker, sexy. Hillary Clinton doesn't fit into these categories, so I was trying to figure out what she would look like if we were forcing someone like Hillary Clinton into these categories. So from then on, we come to Pratt, and keep in mind I was still doing pageantry, and I was dealing with stereotypes and expectations within my artwork, and they were kind of polar opposites. It didn't really make sense to keep them separate, and I was, because that's where I was comfortable and it made sense in my mind, but it really didn't make sense within my art practice. And so this is one of the first series I made, and by this time, entering into Pratt, I was becoming very critical of pageantry. I very much enjoyed them. I got a lot of opportunity, but I also was developing this extreme anxiety of my own self, body, and my physicalness. And so I was frustrated, and these were taken from images of beauty pageant winners' expressions, which is very emotional, very happy, but then also very silly at the same time. And so I was mocking them. I would take photos of myself with no makeup on, and then print them out on canvas, and then go over it with makeup, kind of how we would, as if you were competing in a pageant, you have a lot of makeup on your face and glitter, and be very dramatic. This is another one. I incorporated fake eyelashes because we use those a lot in pageantry. I then read John Dewey, Art as Experience, and also took Linda Francis, who both of them kind of influenced me. Linda Francis said, now that I'm taking a more critical stance on pageantry, I should maybe think about doing another pageant just as an experience, and then take whatever I got out of it and pull back into my artwork. So I did that. I took her advice. I ran in the Miss New York World Pageant and I won. Was not planned. So from then on, all of my art that I've made since then have been pulling from my own experiences, being this insider, participating in the pageantry, as well as an outsider as a critic. And this is one of my, the underneath is a photograph from when I was 12, 13 years old competing. And then I collaged one of those Vegas cards that you collect and put them together, because it was kind of how I was feeling about pageantry, but I also had this experience in my history as well that I really couldn't let go. I started dissecting the materials that I had collected. This is obviously a sash, and it's one of an iconic symbol of pageantry, and I wanted to see what it's like to start taking these things apart and stripping them down, as well as tapping into this, again, frustration that I was feeling between having these two worlds. This is another one that's sticky boobs and a corset, all of which we wear in pageantry, but you don't know that or you don't see that. I wanted to take a more honest approach and kind of show the world that this is a part of beauty, but it's a part of this unseen beauty and this artificiality that we are tapping into, and how this relates to ourselves and how it's relating to other people. These are hair extensions that I was required to get for my title, and I had to put them in my hair, live with them, and it was a terrible experience. I have a video I'll show of it at the end of the presentation, but this is a sculptural form, and I was trying to talk about this kind of painful idea of having all of this on one head. So it's the nail and then the thread. This is a new project that I'm working on, and I'm collecting makeup wipes from all different women. These are mine, and it's a monthly calendar of each day wiping off this laborious task that happens. You wear makeup. Some days you don't, but I still wanted to record all of these days. And it's really about what is the self-portrait of ourselves. Is it the makeup that we wear, or is it what's underneath, and how does that relate to each other? I have them linked in so that they would pop up, but I don't know how it's not working. But I am going into video work and performance as well with my new work, and yeah, that's it. Thank you.
You can't get that video up.
Does anyone know how to do that?
If you go on your
Paul?
Yeah, and I really enjoyed the progression of the talk, and also the newest work. It's kind of interesting. But I really have quite a simple question, I think, but probably the answer is really easy. But so let's say if your weakness of seeing was also a strength for you, how come that the work in between the end, which is also has sound and video, was so visually based? I mean, how come that you ended up doing so much visual art and not used your kind of weakness of seeing? Because there's so many ways to express, I guess, beauty by being, let's say, in extreme way blind. I mean,
That's actually a really good question. I am an artist, and so I could go into audio or not visual, but I am a visual learner as well. So I think working visually is what's always attracted me, but I am playing with audio art or sound art. But so it's a possibility, but I really enjoy working in the visual sense.
But you describe as a situation where your gaze is compromised, and then you found that a way to feel empowerment for being the subject of a gaze, which is also compromised. So I think the potential to join those two in a constellation
it would be quite brilliant. Like
It's-
most people
it's-
persons
it's-
can't
yes,
see.
yes.
I mean,
very there's a real subject that's sort of looming, I think, in the work that you're already doing and the history that you're describing.
I will think about it.
It's a golden line.
You can just talk, I can't see your hands.
Okay. My question was regarding to the collage work, kind of the mashup of like the advertisement for a prostitute and then inserting yourself. Do you feel artists are prostitutes? Or do you feel that this is more a comment on like the commodification of like beauty and then trying to assign monetary value to it?
I definitely don't think artists are prostitutes. Probably more of the second one. That was kind of very critiquing pageantry and this idea of judging and being a product within itself. The self-objectification and how pageantry gives you a score, and that's where you're placed in this whole system. So it was more critiquing pageantry.
You're critiquing the pageantry, but you're also, unless things have changed that last talk to you, you're still sort of staying within this realm at the same time, which I find to be a pretty interesting kind of, not really a cognitive dissonance, but just this, you're being critical of it, but you're also, kind of, in a sense, dependent on it. So I was wondering if you could just speak to that kind of setup a little bit.
Yeah, it's definitely important for me to be within it, not only for my artwork, but also because I have this history with it. It did give me so much when I was a young adult that I wasn't able to get in any other way. On one hand, it's important to me, and I am invested within this whole system, but then I'm also critical of it at the same time, so I do bounce back and forth, being the insider and the outsider. Yeah.
And as a follow-up, has anybody from the pageantry scene commented on your work that is critical of it?
Actually, it's really interesting. I was very worried that all the pageant people would hate me, but it because it is so critical. But I've had such a great response from all of them. Most of these women do get stereotyped, and they like to see the change within it too. We're all critical of the system, and so they see my artwork as kind of trying to change how we do things and even how pageantry is done.
What about the people who run the system? Have they seen it?
Yes, they've seen it. Again, I haven't had any negative feedback from them. They think I'm weird. They definitely think I'm a strange person. But I haven't had, I think they just let me do my thing and
So we have 2 minutes of critical review.
This is not super critical, but I'm curious now, watching this video and then thinking about the Neil one, that you're used to performing all of these tasks in a way, right? So how was it for you making these videos and then watching them, that you're now the audience watching someone go through this?
it was really interesting because I hadn't seen it before. I mean, I've seen it in the sense that other pageant women do it, but I think I became more critical of this kind of artificiality than I had been even before from watching the videos, which I think is a good thing. I'm trying to get to a point where I can figure out what I believe, like figure out my stance on things. But yeah, it was very different seeing it.
Yeah, but I think that the dichotomy and the duality, still has a lot to give you. It has to be an insight. Sorry, 2 minutes of critique.
Yeah.
You want to
Go ahead, David.
I think your style was fabulous. I think you weren't at all coy, or you just the work can't be understood without your story. And rather like Milana, there was a real dignity in the way we were given the information we needed to understand the context of autobiographically informed work, which isn't autobiographical per se. So I think you're on the right track for how to present what you're doing.
I agree. It was very measured and restrained, that biographical information, which is great. Marina Abramovic, Eleanor, Antkin, to name a few. I think you've got to present more of your sisters, because I think it's yeah, because I felt like I liked Cindy Sherman and Barbara Kruger.
Yeah, we got your mothers, but we need your sisters.
I'll bring them in next time.
And not even give them visual time, but a mention of names, because you're working in a rich context, and what's great about your work is you're shifting it again. It's definitely different, but the content, especially the brushing of the hair, this is a different brushing hair piece than history of brushing hair pieces, but it's the context. And so I think that acknowledgement of you being aware of the context strengthens your position, because what you're doing is different. And it just kind of helps the audience know that you're really aware of your history.